Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses!
So Pat, thanks very much. 12 minutes ago we were in the same room. How's the season so far been?
Look, very enjoyable really, I suppose. A lot of hard work, especially after we beaten the All-Ireland final last year. Fellas really knuckled down, we probably assessed what things we'd done right and things we what things we'd done wrong, and couldn't get us over the line on that day against Clare. So we went after those things, and in fairness, the players really doubled down and trained really, really hard, and it has been a long year but a great year.
You were a player for so long, right? And obviously when we would have played together, it wasn't today or yesterday. You enjoyed your days on the field, off the field. We'd a couple of good days together ourselves.
Probably too much.
Every now and again. How do you make sure that you're enjoying this, Pat?
Yeah, I suppose, look, to the people you're with, Donal, to be honest with you, and I think, in the performances, the matches, you can look at it from wins and losses and all that, but it's when the team really, really play for you. That is our key, that they represent the jersey really, really hard, and we get great enjoyment out of it as a management group. And yourself, you're involved in loads of teams, and sometimes some of your friends or your old friends that you don't see as much. But I'm very lucky that the people that I have with me, they've been with me from the under-20s days. Lads that are still involved in the backroom team were with me when I was with Kieran in 16 and 17, and we get on great, and there's great enjoyment out of that. And look, my kids as well is at a great age, and they get a good buzz out of it. My family get a good buzz out of it, and but look, it's to be honest with you, we all live the dream as a player, and now we're getting to kind of maybe live our dreams through the players at the moment.
Being a manager, Pat, and the amount of workload now, that's there's a lot spoken about the players in terms of demands on players, but it seems such a demanding role now. Like you're responsible for the players, but you're also responsible for a big management team. We had a common friend, if you like, that would have always advised us that you have to be good to yourself before you can be good to anybody else. How is Pat Ryan in this managerial role good to himself?
Look, I suppose the most important thing, Donal, is that you've great people with you. That share the responsibility, share the workload. Obviously, I'm front and centre of it, and sometimes I get too much credit, and then sometimes I get too much abuse, maybe. But from my point of view, I have a brilliant wife at home, brilliant family, brilliant structure in that way, and that makes life really easy. I suppose in one way, I don't get my self-worth out of being involved as manager with Cork, and I think that I can keep myself very level-headed. I think as players, we measured our self-worth an awful lot on how we were playing and stuff like that, but I think once I got into management, it was always about the players when I get into coaching and all that, and how they watch. I don't measure my self-worth and how Cork are going or how they're not going, and I think that's helped me from the good days and the bad days. So but look, from my point of view, tis a huge workload, we all know that, but if you look at any club chairman around the county in Cork, and I know plenty of club chairmen, they're doing as much, if not more than me, hidden behind, not maybe getting the same limelight that I get, even though I don't really want the limelight that much. I'm happy in the background, but look, these are things that you have to get through,
And the good days, how do you manage those good days?
As I said, you try not to get too high and too low, but it's you just try and move on. I find that you're just trying to move on to the next day, and it's probably the next day, if you're sitting down with lads and you're having a pint or a bottle of beer together, and you said, that satisfaction that you've done something well, you've done the job well. I think that was huge for us as a group. And as I said, look, the lads that I'm involved with, all the selectors, and Donal Óg, our coach, it's been fantastic, and there's great camaraderie, great fun, great slagging, which is vital in what we're doing, and but at the same time we have to be professional. When you're professional, when you're on, and when you're not, we try and make sure that it's an enjoyable group to be around.
Very good. And like every journey, there's good days and bad days. It's been a great season overall, but I can imagine maybe even the day after the Clare game, Cork having such a big lead, maybe the day after the Limerick game. On those days, Pat will say, and the hours afterwards, and maybe even the next morning, you live you're in such a public environment. everybody knows who you are, everybody knows your job, there's a lot of media coverage, huge attendance at the games. But when Pat Ryan goes home and he's in his own circle, who do you put your trust in?
Look, I think a lot of it is the fellas I'm involved with, but obviously my brothers would be brilliant to me. Obviously, I have a couple of friends, Roland Dwan would be one lad that we'd be very close to ourselves, both of us. I'd often talk to Roland about those things, and look, in fairness, my wife is brilliant. We go home together, and we'll sit down, we'll talk about bits and pieces, and she doesn't really want to talk too much about the match, and but you move on. Look, and I think in all those games, whether you win or lose, you're trying to assess what were the things that we did right and what were the things we did wrong. And I think, I suppose the Limerick game was probably the biggest disappointment since I've come in, because we felt we didn't represent the jersey. Do you know what I mean? There's losing matches, being able to play the right way and trying to get the best out of yourselves, and you've given everything. You can take those days, but when you haven't kind of represented the jersey in the way that you want to represent the jersey, I think they're the ones that's what I pride myself as the manager. That's what I pride that the players will give out. Look, tactically we might do things wrong, or we might make the wrong decisions on the line or something like that, but if the players are playing for the jersey, that's the key to me, and that I can live with myself after that.
That chemistry seems so healthy between the management and the players, and especially yourself and the players. And that's not always easy. We've been in enough dressing rooms to know that that's a hard balance to strike. How are you striking that balance?
Look, you're trying to be as honest as you can, and you're trying to have, sometimes you're having tough conversations with fellas, and I was one of those fellas that was in and out of the team when we were playing together, and they're tough times, but I know what fellas are going through in that, and I think that helps me. But at the same time, it's hard to keep telling a fella when he's going well in training that they might be up against a Rob Downey or up against a Alan Connolly or whoever you might want to talk about, and they just still can't get ahead of him, and they're flying. It's hard to have those conversations, but look, I think everybody's buying into the group and buying into what we're doing, and there's a great buzz around Cork hurling, and it's great to be part of it, and in fairness to the players, they're really making everybody in the 38 feel part of it. They're really including everyone. It's very player driven at the moment, and that's vital. Look, as I keep saying, it's their team. We're here to facilitate it. That's what I believe. That's they would look. I was lucky enough to play with yourself and other brilliant players, the Brian Cochrans, the Dermot Sullivans. Do you know what I mean? The Ben O'Connors, the Joe Deans, all those fellas that were brilliant players, Sean Oakes, and they all led from the front themselves. Do you know what I mean? We had brilliant managers at the time and brilliant fellas involved. But if you don't have the players that are leading and driving it, no manager will be good enough to do it on his own.
The players are still connected to the public. They're all going to work, they're in college, they're in school and so on. How do you manage that in terms of just making sure that they're focused in such a hurling mad place?
Yeah, I suppose, look, when we come down, we try not to stress them out too much in what we're doing, and we try and really narrow down our focus as regards from a tactical approach, from a video analysis approach, making sure the fellas are going out doing it. Look, the game is the game. Do you know what I mean? As I always say, look, the best hurling team, the team that have the most skill, wins the All-Irelands. That's always been the case. That'll always be the case. You might have the best tactical approach, you might be the best physically conditioned, you might be the fastest team in the country. But if you're not a team with the best skill and the best hurlers and playing the best brand of hurling, you're not going to win. And that's where we focus with the lads. Look, it's very hard when they're away in their colleagues, but I think our lads are mature enough. Do you know what I mean? Look, they're at it a while now, a good few of them. Younger guys kind of get on with it a bit more. But look, I think the key for us is that when fellas are injury free, they're playing well. Their confidence is high. They feel that they have trust in each other, trust in the management team. I think all those things can be covered.
The game is the game. I like that one. You were always very thoughtful, Pat, when it came to the game. Always very opinionated. I remember you as a player, confident, really interested to talk about the game all the time. There's a lot of talk about what's changed in the game. What things are still the same?
I suppose the game is look. As I said, the team with the highest skill level. Do you know what I mean? Wins the All-Irelands. That's my opinion. I suppose there was a lot of narrative with the great Limerick team that they were big and they were strong and they had all this extra physicality. They were the best hurling team. That's the key. Do you know what I mean? Clare were the best hurling team last year. They had the best levels of skill, and we analysed it afterwards. We looked at all the skill acquisitions that we didn't take part in or we didn't do properly, and they performed them at a higher level than we did last year. So that's something that we went after. But I think, the main thing about the game is being with players. I think that's what we all love when we finish playing, is being around players, being around a group. They make you younger. They're in great form. And look, they're great days. There's great days. You remember the days coming out to Páirc Uí Chaoimh yourself. The training, they were special days for us when we were together. And look, they're special days when we were back in Páirc Uí Chaoimh here now a lot at the moment. And coming into Páirc Uí Chaoimh and being able to train inside here is, they're really, really special. And fellas are buzzing coming in at the moment.
Through your eyes, has and you've done all those things as a player, travelled that journey, have all the medals, club, county, the whole lot. What has changed over the years?
What has changed over the years? I suppose the social media side of it. Do you know, that side of it? I think that can be tough on players at times. I think we need to be cognizant of that side of mental health. Do you know, as regards that we're dealing with amateur players. Do you know, look, I often say to our lads inside, and I don't want to denigrate any other sport or anything like that, but do you know, the greatest young people that we have in the country are GA players, GA county players. They're giving of themselves for nothing. Do you know, you see the excitement that they're giving, what they're doing for kids. We see it in Cork, but it's happening everywhere. You look what Limerick have gone through, what Clare went through last year. Do you know, you see the hype that was around Tipperary yesterday when they won and the enjoyment that they had. Do you know, I think we have to be cognizant of, you know, in an amateur days, you know, what our fellas are doing, what our players are giving is second to none. And that's not denigrating our great swimmers and rowers and athletics players and all that are, you know, getting maybe a few expenses or whatever like that. But you know, what the best people in the country, the best young people in the country are GA players, whether they're camogie players, lady footballers. They're the best people in the country.
A health service in itself.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
After the weekend, we'll say 2 weeks of a break to the All-Ireland final. Must cross your mind, how do I make sure the lads are enjoying themselves versus making sure they're in good shape leading up to the game? How would you manage that?
That's hard. Look. I think you can't put loads of rules in it. Do you know? I think if you put loads of rules in it, and you look, I'm not in their houses. Do you know what I mean? That you have to trust them to be able to make those decisions. And as I said, it needs to be player led. We've a leadership group that, you know, we'll meet later and, you know, discuss some of those things, and hopefully we can help fellas. And, you know, we've a lot of fellas in our backroom team, and a lot of that is about how we can help the players take the pressure off themselves, and you know, whether it is tickets or whether it is, you know, hotel rooms or whatever it is, or all these things that come to drama. Like, look, all those things take care of itself after at 5 o'clock on Sunday in 2 weeks' time. You know, so look, it's trying to take away any bit of that drama. But look, our fellas in good form, and I think we'll get through it this week. You know.
Obviously, change is part and parcel of the game, Pat. You're involved 3 years. How have Cork changed during that period?
Well, look. To be honest, I got a very highly motivated group of men when I came in. You know, I thought Kieran and his group with Sully, our great friend, The Rock. Do you know what I mean? That had left me with a team that was really, really motivated. Very simple. Do you know what I mean? We got better players in. Do you know what I mean? We've had a, you know, really good conveyor belt of under 20s and minors and stuff like that. And in fairness to the older lads, they embraced that. I think I'm not too sure. Maybe they embraced it all the time, because look, as new players come in, you want to be playing. Our lads embraced it, and there was something we spoke about, that these were going to give our lads the opportunities to win medals and compete and get to All-Ireland finals. And you know, I think they embraced it, and you know, we got really, really close. But that was driven by the players. You know, the players got really, really close. And you know, once you have better players, it builds competition, and that competition really, really took off. And I think, look, in fairness, Donal Óg was a brilliant coach. Do you know what I mean? We were lucky to get him. He was involved. He played with me in SARS. He's been involved around the scene here. He's done a fantastic job with our guys. You know, lives and breathes it, and he's made a huge difference to what way we want to go. Similar with Ian Jones, our strength and conditioning has made a huge difference to what we want to do. And you know, the great thing about Ian as well is, you know, a local guy, you know, really passionate about Cork hurling. Do you know what I mean? Really passionate about Bishopstown as well. Do you know, as he'll keep telling you. But look, they were huge factors in our area. But look, all the time it only gets better if the players get better.
It's 20 years since we won an All-Ireland senior hurling title, Pat. Does that add a weight to yourself, to the team?
It doesn't add a weight. I suppose, look, from my point of view, look, it's an annoyance, really, to be honest with you. I suppose, look, when I first got involved with the under-20s, you know, like, we hadn't won a minor title, we hadn't won a 20 title, you know, you were involved with teams then that came in, and we did loads of those things. There was a lot of work going on in the background, and it was to get the kind of, I suppose, the negativity off the pages. Do you know what I mean? There was enough negativity, whether it was about the stadium, whether it was about we haven't won this and we haven't won that, and just get back to talking about hurling, get back to talking about games, not what we hadn't won. And you know, look, we've ticked a lot of boxes in those areas. And it's kind of a phrase I hate, actually, to be honest, ticking a lot of boxes, but you know, 20 years is too long. You know, I heard people talking about, you know, that Tipperary haven't been, you know, they haven't been, it was in Croke Park in 2019. That's only 6 years ago. That they come back to the, you know, 20 years ago. You know, my oldest fellow is 18. Never seen Cork winning in All-Ireland. You know, we fellas coming out of college now that never saw Cork winning in All-Ireland. Like, that's, you know, that's unheard of. Like, you know what I mean? And that's, it's just too long for the GA in general anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's too long for we all want to get every county winning. Do you know what I mean? I don't think anyone wants a monopoly of it. Do you know, we all want every county to have the success and the great days that the likes of the Limericks have had. Look, Dublin, Kilkenny, Kerry, do you know, Clare last year. We all, every county, every supporter, every child should get to see their own county man go up and lift the Lee McCarthy or the Sam Maguire, or their own whether it's a camogie player or a ladies football player as well, you know.
Mention a tip. It's always something special when Cork and Tip meet in anything. It's obviously a very storied competition between both counties. What does it mean for you?
It means huge, Donal. You know, look, I suppose if you go back to our days when we played together, we managed to beat Tip in the Munster under 20 final. I think Liam and Michael were playing. You know, two brilliant men, two brilliant GA men. You know, so you know, it's Cork and Tip is, you know, going up to Thurles. Everybody loves going to Thurles. It's like, you know, when you're playing, sometimes when we're playing at home here to Tip, you'd nearly prefer to be playing away. Do you know what I mean? It's just everyone loves it, everybody goes, and you know, great players, great people, you know, really good GA people, and you know, you see how they've rallied around Tipperary. Do you know what I mean? There's been a huge swell of support for them. I don't think there's been any bit of negativity like there was last year towards them. You know, their hype train is well and truly going, I can tell you. Yeah,
Anthony Daly spoke very well at the weekend, Pat, about the speech you gave in the Clare dressing room after last year's All-Ireland final. What did that feel like, walking down through the steps of the Hogan stand, you know, walking down through that corridor, if you like, but going into a dressing room that you would have seen things happening in, or that you would have dreamed about, like you said, were going to be happening in the Cork dressing room? Yeah,
I suppose, look, it kind of caught me off guard really when I took over into the manager in the county, that you didn't go in after matches. You know, like every championship match, normally you go in afterwards and commiserate, and it just didn't happen in the county. And though I suppose I hadn't thought about what I would do after the All-Ireland final. But look, I suppose, look, obviously I was disappointed after the All-Ireland final, but I was really proud of our fellas. And I just felt that I had to go in and say something to Clare. I think that's what would have been done traditionally. And I think, look, you have to man up when you're after being beaten. And you know, look, Clare had given everything that day. We'd given everything that day. There was only a puck of a ball in it. What I said, to be honest, even when I'm standing in front of the players, I don't really make up speeches or have it written down what I'm doing. I just try and speak from what comes into my head. Sometimes it gets a bit muddled, maybe like today, but it's just more what comes into my head. And look, I suppose the one thing I remember saying to the Clare fellas was not to drink too much that night, because you know, they're special nights. You need to be able to enjoy it. There'll be plenty of time in the Wednesdays and Thursdays for having a few pints. But I think that Sunday after an All-Ireland, that Monday after an All-Ireland, you know, being able to remember it, you know, knowing where you are, knowing who we're talking to, and knowing who the people around. I think that's one of the things I said to him. And look, in fairness, look, we played against Brian Lowe, and the admiration I'd have for him as a player he was, I wouldn't know Brian that well, you know, to be honest with you, up to that. And but look, at the admiration I would have, the way he played, the way he carried himself, you know, probably the best full-back ever, you know. So I thought it was vital to go in and just give our congratulations to him.
Well, it's something they obviously haven't forgotten, Pat, and hopefully you won't have to do it again. I wish you the best.
Cheers, Don. Appreciate it.
Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last two matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.